Welcome to Reality of the Rose with your host, Natalie Sprink.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 202 of Reality of the Rose. I'm your host, Natalie Sprink. Well, I'm coming to you, recording this on a Saturday and getting a little bit of a late start on my podcast this week. So part of that reason was because I wanted to not only get in Golden Bachelor, which should take all of 2.5 minutes, but I wanted to watch the finale of Love is Blind too, so I could talk about that. And that's just when I'm recording. So this will be coming out a little bit late. Next week, I probably will not have a podcast come out. Just too much happening here. It's the women tell all for Golden Bachelor, and I, I just don't. I feel like it's going to be very hard to podcast on just that episode. And but the following week, I have a little fun thing planned. I'm going to be in Missouri, and Allie's going to be in Missouri as well. We're going to be there for a wedding of a family member, and we are going to group podcast about season 2 of Nobody Wants This. And we are going to do that with Becky, who has been on the podcast several times, as well as with her daughter, Lydia. So the four of us are going to binge watch it while we're down there together. And then we're going to break it down after that. So that episode will probably release sometime mid to late week of next week. So I'm really looking forward to that. I actually spent my Friday night last night rewatching season 1 of Nobody Wants This. Yes, that's how I spent my Friday night. And I'll be honest with you, I loved it. I had my big, huge bag of popcorn, and I just sat there and watched basically 5 hours of Nobody Wants This. And was it hard? No. But would it be hard for me to watch 5 hours of Golden Bachelor? It would be torture. Anyway, so I was glad I rewatched it though, because I have really forgotten a lot that happened. And it'll get me just segued right into season 2. But that show is just so good. The writing is so good. I love the two of them together, and I love their banter. And it honestly, also his brother Sasha and his wife also are great secondary characters. Love the show. Anyway, we're going to be doing that basically in about a little less than 2 weeks. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so today I think I'm just going to get into Golden Bachelor first. Then I'm going to talk a little Love is Blind, and then maybe a little Dancing with the Stars. And that's mainly all I've been watching lately. So here we go. He had 3 hometowns. He still doesn't love anyone and probably won't. And that's it. Okay, so now on to love. Just kidding. Not really, but I guess I'll break it down a little bit more than that. I don't know, guys. I just feel like a broken record here. I'm just getting very hopeful that maybe they're not even going to have Golden anymore. I really have come to the conclusion that it is a somewhat of a one-hit wonder. Again, maybe it's just Mel and his lack of enthusiasm and his personality and his demeanor, and just the fact that he gave everyone a bad taste in his mouth from the beginning. And that, okay, so I have to appreciate if someone isn't feeling it with any of these women. I have to appreciate that he's being honest and isn't just saying it for the sake of saying it. So I do have to appreciate that and acknowledge it. But it's really hard to watch it when it doesn't feel like he's into any of these women. And, it's also very hard to watch him because he seems way older than he is. He's 65, right? I feel like he's my dad's age. I feel like he looks like he's 80. He shuffles when he walks. I know he played football, so he's probably had the hell beat out of him, but I don't really care why. I just know when he walks, I feel like I want to hand him a cane or a walker. And he, talks about like wanting to be adventurous and stuff. Like, why? You can't, I don't think you can do any of it. He just has that old, like, how Joe Biden had the like that shuffle, that old man shuffle. That feels like that's Mel. Um, on top of the fact, again, zero personality and whatever. I feel like again a broken record, but he just doesn't seem into any of the women, and I only feel like he seems into them when he wants to make out with them, which is gross and disgusting. And I don't feel like he ever is showing any true interest in the women themselves, or at least we're not being shown that. I feel like the only connection we see with him and any of them is like a physical element. And how much we want to see that in 60-year-olds. Like, so I just, I don't, this is just a bad season, and I hear that the ratings are just absolutely horrible. That being said, I do love Cindy and Peg, who are the two that are left. I liked Debbie too, although I don't know, she annoyed me a bit. I had a hard time watching her. I also didn't know if I was ever getting the authentic Debbie. She's got an amazing body for her age. I know she's into like yoga and working out, and I think she's a trainer or something, and you can tell that. But first of all, I knew she would be the one that got sent home. But I don't really enjoy watching her either. We had Peg's hometown first, which was in Vegas. I have to say, so he went to her firehouse because she's like the bomb diffusing expert or whatever. But I really did like her outfit here and her hair. She had it curled, like it was curly, and she had like wide leg trousers on and a little tank top. And I loved this on her. I was like my favorite outfit of the whole season. Very simple, but very chic and very like on trend and very flattering on her. That was my favorite part of the whole show, was Peg's outfit, as well as her little outfit that she wore when she met the family, which was a red dress that also was very flattering on her. Um, anyway, they did this little like funny, cute montage of them at the firehouse, and had to get them kissing, and like it's just too much kissing and not enough get to know you. Like there's none. There just don't feel like there's much of any. So we meet her kids, her brother and his wife, and her mom. Her mom has watched The Bachelor for like 20 years, and I loved her. She was also one of my favorite parts of the show. She was the cutest thing talking to Peg about him. She seemed like so excited to be on TV. And in fact, that I don't think she was even really like, well, are you sure about this? And, I don't want you hurt. And she was just kind of like cracking little jokes and very, I think, aware of the cameras. But she was the cutest thing, and love that she's a Bachelor fan. Then they have Mel talking to her daughter, and her daughter had a lot of, I think, saw a lot of red flags. I think she also was very skeptical of this whole thing, which she really just verbalized out and out. But it didn't help any that when she was talking to Mel, that she said, "So how are you feeling?" to Mel, and he says, "Good." And then she says, "How are you feeling about my mom?" And he says, "Great." This is Mel, folks. This is Mel. And don't you know that, I mean, she ended up acting like, yeah, you seem like you really like him a lot, and he seems like a really great guy. Yeah, I feel like Mel's the kind of guy when you meet him, you're like, yeah, he seems like a great guy. Does he have much substance to him or much depth to him? Do you really want him with your mom? Probably not. And I have a feeling that's what she was thinking when this ended. She did not seem super impressed with him. He didn't tell her stuff she wanted to hear, which, again, to be fair, she was wanting to hear, I love your mom, I guess. And why do we want to hear that after they've been dating for 4 weeks? That would be something I would think would be a red flag, to be honest. I don't care how old you are. But I feel like Code was like, I didn't hear what I wanted to hear because I literally didn't hear him say anything. He just gave me one word answers. And, I don't know. So he had also had a lot of I don't knows. She would ask about, like, if he was in love with her, or if he could see himself in love with her, if he can see himself getting there. And he just kept saying, I don't know. Like, let's dig a little deeper, Mel. Let's, even if you're going to be honest, let's say the feelings that you're having. Let's verbalize what is going on in your brain. Like, is it any more than I don't know? I guess probably not. I don't know. Um it was just whatever. It was just a hometown. He did say, my goal is to find someone, not propose, when she asked kind of about, isn't the end of this supposed to mean like you proposing? And he said, my goal is to find someone, not to propose. Again, have to appreciate that angle, have to appreciate that he is not like following the mold and, feeling like he has to get engaged or it's this big failure. But, and he verbalizes that. But, I think to the viewer, it kind of just comes off as, I'm not really taking this seriously. And I'm wanting to take the easy way out maybe and get on TV. I don't really know what to think of Mel. I really don't. If he felt a little condescending when he was talking to her daughter, I'll be honest. I felt like he was going through the motions here with her, and I did not like how that edit came across. Whether that's actually how it went down, I don't know, but I thought he felt condescending to her, and I did not like that. Maybe that was my big problem with it, even if he was being honest. So next we had Debbie. She's from Denver. They go to the Red Rocks and like hike around there. She tells him her PTC here, which is that the last relation, she's never been married. Her last relationship that she was in, he had depression, and she sort of dealt with that with him for a while. And it kind of sounded like it just got too much for her. And she broke up with him, but 2 weeks after she broke up with him, he committed suicide, which is a really, really sad story. So she got emotional about that. She reiterates to Mel that she's falling for him, using our, classic terminology. And they go and meet her siblings and their spouses, since she does not have any kids. Mel plays catch with her brothers. We meet Debbie's twin, who didn't believe that was her twin. I still don't believe it. I know that all twins are not identical, and all twins don't but they literally did not look anything alike. And Debbie's twin looked at least 10 years older than Debbie. But okay. This was just kind of a boring and cliche and just going through the motions, in my opinion, type of hometown. Not much to say here. In my opinion, you could just tell that again, this was just going through the motions. That's all I have to say about it. Next was Austin. This was Cindy's. I just freaking have so much to say about Cindy and her daughters. I think they need their own reality show of just them living. I would watch that. They are such attractive people to watch. Cindy, I think, is such like, for the sake of the show and her winning, it seems like she has the deepest feelings for Mel. But for her sake, I hope she's like doesn't end up with him, and that she has all kinds of men that have so much more depth and so much more to them after she gets off this show. I think she's stunning. I love her auburn hair with her absolute beautiful blue eye color. I just think she's such a pretty lady. And she produced like 3 drop dead gorgeous daughters. Wow. I mean, they are all stunning. I was almost thinking like Nader sisters when I was watching it. But they seemed like super comfortable too in front of the camera and saying what they wanted to. Again, like someone give them a reality show. I'll watch that one. I really will. I don't know what it'd be about, just their life, but like that would be interesting. Um, he tells one of the daughters that he just doesn't know what will unfold over time. Again, he's being vague and not committing to absolutely anything to any of these family members, which maybe is a good thing so that they don't get their hearts broken. But honestly, when he talked to, I think it was Sarah, he almost seemed more interested in Sarah than he was in Cindy. And that would hold true with old Mel, you know? Um, he seemed very more receptive to Sarah than to Peg's daughter, and I didn't like that because I felt like he would have sat there and talked to Sarah because of how she looked. Um, Sarah also though seems very hesitant about him and this whole journey, um, and is worried about her mom and all of those things. All the daughters sort of seem that way. Um, so this was, it was a nice enough meeting, but I got zero from Mel and just simply was focused on these four women on this one. She takes him to her condo and she says to like ITM, she says she thinks she's in love with him, but he doesn't give her any assurance about where he is in this whole process. And she pushes him a little about it and where he stands and where he's at. And he just really doesn't even give her much of an answer. He just says it's complicated yet. He ITMs that he's not in love yet with Cindy. People, these are the hometowns. We have max a week left, and why this show makes us believe that they could actually like fall in love within this next week is wild, but I guess that's what they're trying to imply. um I just don't think there's any way he can conceivably pick any one of these women and have it be fair, and if he does, it will never in a million years last. I just feel sorry for these women. I really do. They So then it's a rose ceremony, and as we know, Debbie goes home, so it's Cindy and Peg that are left to go. I don't know, I'm not sure of the schedule here. I know that the Women Tell All is next week, which is fine. I have a feeling you are not going to miss much if you skip it, and I may, because the reunion of Love is Blind will be airing next Wednesday, and that will be much, 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 much more interesting to watch. I might save the Women Tell All for just another time altogether. Um, but then I don't know how they're going to do the finale. I'm assuming, like, are they going to have the fantasy suites, if we call them that, and then immediately have the proposal? Usually those are two different shows, but it was very unclear. They weren't really even talking in the previews about like the overnight visits, or I missed it if they did. So I don't know if they're just going to skip that and go right into who, he proposes to or not, but let's just get this freaking thing over with, and no matter what, do it all in one show. Let's just be done with it. How about it? How about that, so we can get into Secret Lives of Mormon Wives in November and get us really built up until we get to watch Taylor Frankie Paul and her season. All right. Okay, so Love is Blind. I this is the show, like the show that aired this week is the one that is usually the least interesting for me. I typically watch these weddings and I usually fast forward through all the prep for the wedding, all of them talking with their friends and their family and doing their ITMs and getting dressed and getting their hair done, blah, 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 blah. Because to me, it's all the same. Very, very rarely do they give us any clue in this beginning, period, before the actual ceremony, whether and what either is going to say yes or no. In fact, they typically try to make it seem like all of them will be saying yes, because in all of the little interviews they have with him, they, are saying, yes, I can just totally see myself with them. And, or I guess not always. A lot of times they'll be like, I'm not sure what I'll say until I walk. I don't know what these people said, because I fast forwarded through all that part and just waited until they were up at the altar and did their thing. But even when they're giving each other their, I guess what you would call vows, they still trick us sometimes, because they make it seem like they're totally in love with this person, and then like appreciate them so much, and value them so much, but then in the end they say no. So we had KB. No, we didn't. We had Allie and what was his name? Anton first. And thankfully they did not. He said yes and she said no. This was not a surprise for me. I think it was really telling last week during the episode, where she was calling him out on his drinking. And to me, it was super clear he was completely lying about the whole thing. I feel like his story changed 3 or 4 times. Like, first she asked him, like when they showed the little scene where she looked in the fridge and asked where her drinks were, and he was like, well, did you drink them? Obviously he drank them, but she was like, I had two. And he was like, first he said Jordan came up to the apartment, he said Jordan came and we had some. And she was like, he was in the apartment. And then I guess he got weirded out by her asking that. And he was like, oh no, we drank down in the lobby. And I'm like, what the fuck did you drink down in the lobby for? Like, why can't you just say, yeah, he was in our apartment? I'm sorry I didn't tell you. But then it started out that they each had a few, and then it was like they each had two, and then he said they each had one. And then she asks if the tequila is still in the fridge. And you could just tell the way he acted that he knew good and well the tequila or the vodka or whatever the hell was vodka, I guess that makes more sense, was in the fridge. But he went to check and just was like, no. I didn't like that. He just, I definitely got to like him less as the show went on. He just seemed, I don't even know the word, like not super ambitious or motivated. And I don't know, they just didn't match at all. Once we saw their interactions and things like that, I just didn't think they were a good match. And I think that she went on this show maybe to get a little exposure, and I think that's fine. And I think that she did a perfect job of getting that exposure by carrying on this like relationship. I don't know that she really felt like she was going to marry him ever. But she got far in it. She's a gorgeous girl, and I'm sure her DMs are going to be full when she gets done with this show. But she says no. We see her crying about it. We see him going back to the little man space and just eating and drinking stuff, not really showing much emotion at all. So I don't know, that it's for the better. Then we had KB and Edmund, and this is such a, I think last time I talked about this, I talked about how he was a little, he was endearing, but yet I could see where he would be a hard person to be with. I think, I feel bad for him. It was very clear that he just had a lot of trauma growing up, and that is what is happening now in present day with his very deep level of emotions and the way he reacts to certain things and about certain things, and his very, very emotional state, but also almost his like childlike state. I think that it's just going to take, I hope that he watches this and sees it, even though he probably realizes it maybe already, and maybe he already is in therapy. But I hope that he seeks a lot of therapy and help, um, to help him evolve and mature and get beyond his childhood trauma. I felt so sorry for him when the person he asked to like be there for him and walk him down the aisle was his fifth grade teacher, because his mom didn't show up. And I don't know, like it feels like the trauma continues with him. And I just feel so bad for him. And I know that he's a lot, I think, to be with. And I think KB did as good a job as she could being with him, but I mean, I can't blame her. It was so clearly like a mother-son relationship between the two of them. No matter how much he expressed his love for her, the bond that they had was so maternal on her part towards him, up until the end. And I thought, I mean, when she got mad at him that one time for saying whatever he did at that party, I was really glad they hashed that out and that we could hear her side about what had happened earlier that day, about how he just really dismissed her and didn't help her out or do anything. I felt that context was really great for us to hear. Um, but I just feel like she really, she's a therapist or a counselor, and you could see that in her and the way she communicates. Um, but I just think it was too much. And I really, in my opinion, respect the way she handled it at the altar when she said no. He said yes, she said no. But how, he obviously got very upset, very emotional, and had trouble, as he usually does, verbalizing things, because he just kind of repeats the same phrases over and over. But the way she handled him and talked him down, and that they even walked out of the ceremony together holding hands, I thought was great. It might have made it hard for him, but I don't think so. I just thought she was very, like, as gentle as she could be and very compassionate towards him and how he would maybe take this. And I think she probably struggled a lot with how she was going to do this, but I also feel like she knew all along that they would not end up together. But the scene between he and his teacher, like, wow. That was really, I didn't fast forward. I mean, I fast forwarded through a lot of that, but I did stop there because I didn't know who this woman was. And so but like, what a cool relationship, and for there to be someone, that is sort of there for him, that holds a maternal place for him, if even if his mom doesn't. But um yeah, he was really interesting to watch. I enjoyed watching these two together. Just, I guess I'll just say, like, for the TV aspect of it. But yeah, I just really hope that he's able to, like, work through some of this trauma um now. And I'm anxious to see the two of them on the reunion, really, a lot. So then the big surprise of the episode, I think, that I'm aware of, this is the first season where there was no marriages. Absolutely no marriages. I thought they at least would have to have one, and as I think everyone did, thought it would be Megan and Jordan, but it was not. And it was interesting. It was interesting that they didn't go to the altar. I know that, I wonder how this is determined, in my opinion, because, and obviously this is just my thoughts and my opinions, but I also think Allie and KB knew that they were going to say no at the altar. So how come, like, what what makes them take it as far as going to the altar and not doing what Megan did and saying, I just didn't want to put you through that, and I'm just going to tell you no now? Does the show help in this decision making? Is it like them agreeing to, just for the sake of at least having the appearance of these weddings, which is the whole uh, basis of the show, that they have to have some, did Megan beg production, please don't make me go to the altar? Like, was it because he had a son? Like, I wish I knew those details of why some people break it off and don't even make either one of them go to the altar, and why some do. But either way, she broke up with Jordan, I'm assuming the day before the weddings. That was a little unclear to me, but her reasoning was just that they did not align, that they didn't have enough interests in common. He disagreed with that and didn't think that was a reason, because like opposites attract type thing. But I think in the end, it seemed to me like what she was saying was that her lifestyle, because she doesn't have kids and because she has done very, very well for herself, and sort of has a lot of financial freedom, which also gives her some personal freedom as far as travel and doing things on a spur or on a whim, and all of those things she did not want to give up, really, for the sake of really making some massive changes, mainly because of his son, and Luca. And I think that she really did love him, and like, would have done her best to be a good mom, but just in the end saw that it wasn't realistic. And I totally respect that as well, because how shitty to, try and make it work when you have a child and you build up hope in them and make it confusing for them, for her to just say up front like it's not going to work. He did seem very upset by it, but he did say that the producer asked if he had any regrets, and he said, her meeting Luca, he wished he wouldn't have introduced her to Luca. And I know he was really upset. He seemed kind of pissed about it, but I have to think, after some time passed, that he understood. Now, the interesting thing is going to be that she has been seen with a man. Oh, let me back up, because she said in her little interview that, she this made her think that she doesn't think at this time she's ready to be a mom. And then she said, it makes me wonder and think maybe I just don't want to be a mom at all, like, period, ever. But lately, apparently, she's been seen out and about with a guy and there is a kid present as well. Like, it seemed on the preview for the reunion that she was like, they brought that up about her in her interview, saying that she didn't know, maybe this was telling her she shouldn't be a mom. And she was like, well, I have some news. So they're wanting us to at least believe that she is going to reveal that she's now currently in a relationship with a guy who does have a kid. I don't know how Jordan will feel about this. This will be a really, really interesting thing to play out. And I kind of can't wait to see how, again, this part at the reunion will be very interesting. But I don't know. I liked them both a lot. I know some people didn't really like Megan. I didn't like her nickname, Sparkle Megan, but I kind of liked her by the end. And I also like her and Jordan. I really warmed up to both of them and them as a couple. I think I felt like they seemed like they really meshed well. And I think, as most people thought they would be the one to actually get married, but they didn't go to the altar. So yeah, I'm anxious to see the reunion and how that all plays out. I think that will be a good one to watch. I also can't wait to kind of see, because there's also been rumor of I think they'll probably bring in like Patrick and Casey and obviously like Joe and why can I never think her name? It's not Melissa. What is her damn name? Anyway, like the other couples that ended before they even got to the weddings. I just think it could be a little bit of a heated reunion. But I always also think, like, how does this work? Because these relationships all ended like at least a year, if not more, ago, because that's when they filmed, was over a year ago. And so that after those relationships ended, they obviously moved on. and they've moved on from those relationships. Then they watch this back, and I guess it's when the emotions come back, because it's odd to me that they get so emotional and the feelings are so heightened during the reunion, when it occurred a year ago, and it feels like those emotions shouldn't really be there so strongly anymore, and they always are. But I guess them reliving it and watching it back, and also getting all the feedback from social media and fans and everything else, I'm assuming brings back a lot of that. um so I guess you just have to go with that and not think about that so deeply like I always do. I always am wondering about the behind the scenes stuff, but um I just always find that fascinating that they're like so heated about these things when it was a year ago. But either way, I'm looking very forward to that. And yeah. Let's see, what else did I say? Oh, Dancing with the Stars. So I just watched the Wicked night. It was so odd to me because I am wild crazy about Wicked. I'm so excited that it's only 4 weeks away from when we get part two. Um, love, 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 love Wicked. I even had Jody got me the I'm showing it if you're watching, my Glinda Owala for my early Christmas present, and I love, 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 love it. Um, oh, I'm actually wearing a Wicked t-shirt today. So funny. But so they had Wicked Night, but I'll be honest, I didn't like Wicked Night aligned with Dancing with the Stars. I didn't think the songs were that conducive to dancing. I don't know if anyone else felt that way, but I felt like that a lot. I also, when I listen to the Wicked songs, I want to hear the whole damn song, and I don't want to hear it cut up into a minute version or whatever their dances are. You know, I want to hear this song like the Wizard of I. I got the Wizard and I got right into, and then they splice and cut it all up. So like that pisses me off. Also, I know that I even didn't feel like the dances um were I know we got our first tens of the season this past week, but I I thought personally that there have been dances prior to this week that were a lot better and had a lot more choreography to them. A lot of these dances seem to have a lot of fluff in them, like at the beginning, where they were actually doing some motions and things from the actual musical and were uh you know um copying that. But like that didn't show much choreography to me. And even though the Defy Gravity with Elaine, what's her name, totally gave me the goosebumps and even had tears in my eyes because she got to do the thing in the musical where they lift her up in her cape and she plays Alphaba, and she's like, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it right now. Like, to be able to just play that scene out, don't care what show you're on, would have been amazing. And I just like loved that part, and that was so cool to watch, like so cool. And it was emotional. Like I guess if you were like really into the show, maybe you don't, if you're not, you don't get that emotion, but I felt it. However, and I love the dance, don't get me wrong, it was a good, I always like contemporary dances. um but like for her to get 10, or did she get nines? I think she got nines, which again, it was good, but I've thought that a lot of her dances before were just as good. I also, with Whitney, like I think she should win because I think she's the best, honestly. However, again, her choreography to me has seemed a lot better and more complicated, at least in my simple mind, than this particular dance she did. Jordan Childs, is that how you say it? I really loved her dance. Now, her choreography I thought seemed really good. Um, and I thought she really deserved those tens as well. Robert Irwin, he didn't do as well. And I could see why, because I didn't like that dance. I didn't think it showed off his talent whatsoever. But my favorites are Whitney, um, Robert Irwin, I like Elaine though. I do. I think because I think I talked about this before because she's exactly like my age and I love watching someone that's my age still perform and learn these dances and look so good out there still. So I'm rooting for her. I don't know that crazy that what's his name is still on. I didn't even realize I can't think of his name, but like the older, heavier guy who can't dance worth a shit. Um, how is he still on? And Scott Hoying, I loved him too. I cannot believe that he got eliminated and I whatever his name is did not. So wild to me. I just did not know. I guess that age is who watches this show and they're voting for him. I'm not. Um, but I just think that's not fair somehow. I don't know. It just seems weird that he is still in it halfway through. Um, but I do really love Jordan too. I really like watching all of them. I just think this is a really good cast, and I haven't watched it this religiously for quite a few seasons, honestly. Um, and a lot of times I'll just have like three or four of my favorites and I'll literally fast forward through everything except their dances. But I'm pretty much watching everybody, every contestant yet, except for, again, whatever the freaking guy's name is that can't dance worth a shit. I don't watch any of his. I fast forward through everything because I don't really care. But I watch everything else and the scores and I'm really loving it. So I'm very anxious to see who starts. Now it's going to start becoming really obviously a popularity contest. And I've heard that the judges' scores actually don't really mean that much at all in the grand scheme of when they are kept, like who's kept on the show and who's not. They make it sound like, you know, a portion of the score is the judges and a portion is America. I feel like 90% is America and 10% is judges because, anyway, but I think now it's going to start to become a popularity contest and we'll see. So, yeah, I guess that's it. I am going to wrap this up. I think I am going to maybe don't have anything planned for this evening. I think I'm going to maybe sit down and since I got all of Nobody Wants Us in, I'm going to continue on my Gilmore Girls journey. I'm into season 3 now and still loving it and still never got my closure on Max and Lorelai, but you know what? I'm getting over it. And yeah, so I hope y'all have a great weekend, a great next week. If you're into Halloween, which I'm really not at all, hope you have a fun Halloween. And yeah, just enjoy the fall weather. And I'm super awkward at closing these things off. So I also, oh, just to remind you to please leave some positive feedback. Uh, I'm on YouTube, so you can, you know, head over there and watch this episode if you like. So give me some comments, hit subscribe, hit follow, hit like, give me some positive feedback. Like please do all the things. I really love doing this and the more that I get feedback in any manner, the better my show does. And yeah, I appreciate it a lot. So until next time, be calm, be strong, be kind, and be grateful. Bye.